back to another Tuesday's Takeaways with Talks That Go Woodworks. My name is Scott, and today I'm going to talk to you about CFM and why it matters in your shop. So what exactly is CFM? Well, other than the initial CFM, it means cubic feet per minute, which is a measurement of airflow volume. So it's how much air moves past a certain point in 1 minute. Best way to look at that in woodworking is that CFM tells you how hard your dust collection system or dust collector or vacuum, whatever you're using, is working to pull sawdust and chips before they take over your shop and you're stumbling all over it all. So best way to think of it is CFM is the muscle of your dust collection system. So if you have more CFM, you have more pulling power. The best way to measure that or think about it is like this, using a basketball. No, it's a little weird, but a basketball equals 1 cubic foot. So if your dust collector or your vacuum states that it has 100 CFM, that means it is moving 100 of these basketballs of air moved every single minute. I know, basketballs and air, but that's just how it is. So how do you know if you have the right amount of CFM? So not every tool you have in your shop creates the same type of mess. So your CFM may vary. It depends on if you have a big shop or a small shop, such as I do, on how big of a dust collection or how many dust collection systems you might need. So a good way to look at that is looking at what tools you have in your shop and basing your dust collection needs off those tools. So a good way to view that is look at the tools you have and determining what is the amount of CFM you need for those tools. Something to go by is orbital sanders or random orbit sanders such as this, a scroll saw or a small band saw. You can usually use a small shop vac that'll cover that. We all know Festool makes them, connects directly to their system, but you can use any shop vac from any big box store, can connect to it, and as long as it's directly to that tool, you're covered. Now if you have more medium-sized tools or bigger tools, you're going to have to use more CFM. So before I move on, give you an idea, the dust or the random orbit sander, it's about 100 to 350 CFM is what those produce and what you'll need to keep the dust away. When you move up to the bigger tools, such as if you have a contractor type table saw, your miter saw, or you have like a small joiners or planers, like little portable ones, then you want to move up to something bigger, because now not only are you producing dust, but you're producing bigger wood chips. And with those bigger wood chips and dust, you want to collect as much as you can before it gets into the air and get pushed around and messes your lungs up or makes your shop really dirty and dusty to be in. At that point, you're looking at a single stage dust collector can handle that. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, ginormous, or anything like that, but you're now moving up from your normal shop vac to a little more power, a little more CFM, roughly in the 350 to 600 CFM range. Now, if you have a bigger shop or bigger tools, even in a small shop, now you're looking at something a lot higher CFM. You're looking at 700 plus you're going to need, because if you have the big planers, like the floor model planers or big drum sanders or the big cabinet table saws, not the smaller ones, but the big ones, you're going to have a heavy debris output. And what you don't want to do is underestimate or undersize your CFM needs to be able to collect the dust and the debris and the chips from those type of tools. There are times, depending on your shop and your needs, where you may have multiple dust collectors and vacuums, or just an array and a mix of all the above, or the way that you use your ducting system also can help you determine what size you need for your shop. One thing to look at and keep track of and to pay attention to and do more research is something called a static pressure trap. So we all set our shops up, we get our dust collection system, whether it's a vacuum, a big dust collector, or medium size, what have you, and we instantly think, well, we need to run hard pipe or flexible hose or whatever to get to all our tools, and that once we do that, we'll be fine. Everything will be collected. However, that is not the case. And the reason that's not the case is your dust collector is rated at one certain CFM. Whether that's true or not, the manufacturer rates it at, what have you. So we'll start, and we'll go for this scenario. We'll say your dust collector is rated at 1200 CFM. But then you run 10 feet of the stretchy hose. To a quick example, I'll pull this one off the table saw. This is the small one, but the corrugated one like this, it stretches. And there's bigger ones. You can get 2-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch, depending on what you have. Well, when you run these hoses, you connect these to your tools. Now, those hoses, depending on how far the run is, you're going to run it to your dust collector or your vacuum. The longer it goes, the more friction it has. So now say you have 10 feet of that, we'll run 4 inches from the dust collector, 4-inch, 10 feet corrugated hose, and then you also have your filter that's on the dust collector that the air is going through that can clog it down and bog you down. But then when you finally get to the end of your run and you're at your tool, that 1200 CFM has now been reduced to 600 CFM. You've essentially lost 50% of your airflow. And the reason behind that is friction. It's a simple thing. We all know it. Friction slows many things down. It includes the air. So every piece of hose you have, if you have rigid ductwork, even though the ductwork is hard and it may have a smooth interior and let it flow faster, you still run into having 90 degrees. If you have elbows that are on there, or you have Ys, anything that varies from a straight line will slow it down, cause more friction. If you have a transition where it goes from the solid ducting into a flexible hose, that transition instantly creates more friction. So every few feet that you're going, you're losing CFM, but then the more friction you have or you create with 90 degrees, Ys, different turns, going from vertical to horizontal, you're creating friction. You're also fighting gravity at that point too. So you have to think that every bend, every foot, every flexible line you have, depending on how far away it goes, you may have excellent suction at your dust collector, but it may be minimal at the actual tool. So when setting up a shop or purchasing tools, you need to figure that out and design it the best way to collect the most amount with what you have. So, best way to look at it, plan it out, figure out how many bends, turns, how far you have to run, how far you go up if you're going to run into the ceiling. If you're going to run into the floor, same thing, how far you can go. If you have spots for cleanouts, for clogs, that helps as well. But keep in mind that friction is going to drastically change what you bought at the store and what the number on that box and that machine says compared to what the actual pickup is at the tool. So, some of the best ways to optimize your CFM. One, keep it short and straight. Doesn't always happen. I'm not moving the camera right now, but mine, I have a dust collector over here to my left, and then I have a flexible hose that runs the hard line that goes up just shy of my ceiling all the way around over down to a little boom that I have here that connects to my table saw, or I can connect it directly at the dust collector for other hoses. It is very noticeable that the further you go, the less suction it has. So just something to keep in mind. Longer means less. More bends means less. So if you keep it short and straight, you're going to get more CFM and not be robbed of it. Another thing is always go rigid where you can. And what I mean by that is the hard lines. Use the hard pipes. Some people use PFC. Some people, there's specialty companies that make hard tin lines or aluminum lines, galvanized, what have you. I personally just went to Home Depot and bought HVAC line, venting line, and connected it. That works just as well. It's 4 inches, connects perfectly. But when you use the rigid pipe instead of the flexible hoses, you get less friction. Smooth walls, best way to look at it, air passes through smooth walls faster and less restrictive than passing through something that has all those little bends and curves in it. And the last way to optimize is to always size up. So if you're starting a shop, if you're redoing your shop, or if you have it in your shop and you want to figure the best way to get the best suction possible, always size up. Always buy more CFM than what you think you'll need. Because once you start installing, like I've said many times, once you start installing the lines and everything and you start branching off, CFM, that number, if you start at 1200 and you branch off and keep going down the line, and the more feet you have, your number keeps going down. So you need to figure out how much CFM your furthest tool needs and determine that by how far you're running your lines as well, to figure out if that dust collector you're looking at will truly provide enough CFM for it, or where you want to put that dust collector is still going to provide enough CFM, or if you have to move things around or go buy something bigger. So, kind of recap, CFM, cubic feet per minute. It's not anything great to look at. It's not a topic that everyone's like, ooh, I want to run and learn this or anything like that. However, if you're running a wood shop, small, medium, large, doesn't matter, and you do care about, one, the air quality in your shop and the cleanliness in your shop, some type of dust collection, some type of vacuum system comes into play. Knowing, one, and understanding how it works and what type and size system you need is a key to being able to run not only a clean shop but a safer shop and truly pick up everything that you have. So just remember that CFM is your airflow volume per minute. Basketballs, think of that. And then you want to always match your CFM to what your needs are. I would consider a small shop. I have a 1 garage shop with a lot of stuff in it, but I have a 1.5 horsepower dust collection system with, when you add it up, about 15 total feet of hard line, and then I have flexible line that comes off of that. So my CFM, yes, it drops some, but it's a very small shop. Plus, for my sanders, I have a separate vacuum. My miter saw, I have a whole separate vacuum attached to that. So those collect at the source, and then I have my dust collector picking up everything else that's big. It runs to my bandsaw, my table saw, and my joiner and my planer when I wheel them out is all connected straight to the dust collector. So it has better power and better CFM than if I ran things further away or I had a bigger shop. And then last thing to consider is account for your duct losses. Always size up. I've said that a couple times. Always size up. Friction is your enemy. Figure out the best ways to run your dust collection and eliminate friction the best way you can. Because in the end, sucking does matter in the shop. That's all I have for today. I hope you like these videos and consider subscribing and following so you can see what else we have next time. That's all I have for today. I'll see you next time.